really important issue here in Colorado, which is dark money in politics. You guys have probably seen a bunch of mailers, a bunch of ads, text messages that are flooding your feed right now from all these different groups. And we really want to talk about how that affects 3 different types of races. Here we have a federal race, a state legislature race, and a county-wide race to really talk about how money affects political campaigns, how it affects how we message, and how it affects our discourse as a whole. And we also have our incredible moderator, Andrew Barton from Colorado Common Cause, who is currently leading a lawsuit against the Opportunity Caucus. Who here is aware about the Opportunity Caucus here in Colorado? Yeah, the Opportunity Caucus is a caucus that is currently being investigated by the state legislature for attending a lobbying trip in Vail where they allegedly received their rooms paid for by lobbyists. And this is something that is really personal to our race as a whole, since one of our opponents is endorsed by every member of the Opportunity Caucus. So we really want to highlight right now how money in politics affects this race, how it affects different races, and we have 3 incredible candidates here. And they're going to do a quick introduction, and then we're just going to get into questions. So thank you so much for being here. There's food and drinks up here, and thank you again for coming. So we'll start with Jenn.
Hey everybody, my name is Jenn Kaaoush, and I'm running for Boulder County Treasurer.
Cool, is that it?
He's gonna ask us.
Oh, okay. Hi guys. My name is Gonzales. I'm a candidate for the U.S. Senate here in Colorado, and I'm sick and tired of do-nothing Democrats.
Hello everyone, my name is Anil Pesaramelli. I'm a council member from town of Erie, and I'm sick and tired of the status quo.
Awesome, thanks all so much for coming out. Thank you for having me. I'm Andrew. I work at Colorado Common Cause, but also just want to flag I'm here in my personal capacity, not professional, so transparency. Before we dig in,
Boulder Dem.
and Boulder Young Dems, yes. Before we dig into all the great conversation that we're going to have, I think it'd be awesome for the candidates to share just a little bit about what the office they're running for is and what it does.
Hello everyone, my name is Anil Pesaramelli. I am running for House District 19, which runs across Erie, Frederick Firestone, Tacoma, and part of East Lawn. I am running because I am tired of seeing the same people, same status quo, same thing, and I want to bring different kind of politics. And this is about representation. This is about representing people who are not seen, not heard, and that's why I'm running.
So I currently serve in the state capitol, and the U.S. Senate, to me, is the place where too often good ideas have gone to die. And I believe that in this moment, when we are witnessing as willful a destruction of both our values and the institutions that we hold dear, that not only should we be working to flip red seats blue and build a governing majority across the country so that Democrats take back the U.S. House of Representatives and the U.S. Senate. Not only should we be engaged in that work, we too should be engaged in the work of thinking deeply about the caliber of Democrat that we send to Washington, D.C. to advocate for our values. As proud as I am of the work that we have accomplished at the state capitol to, defend reproductive freedom, to protect voting rights, to ensure that ICE is held to account and has to follow the same principles of go get a warrant signed by a judge that every other law enforcement agency in the United States has to abide by. We have done that work here in the state of Colorado, and yet Donald Trump has just run ramshot. And so I think that the U.S. Senate is the place where we should be able to take back democratic control upgrade the caliber of leadership that we send to DC in the first place, and also invite Chuck Schumer to go find a different job, because I think that he has honestly done a great job of effectively managing our descent into fascism instead of standing up and leading the fight against it. And so that would be my first order of business in the US Senate, is finding us a different Democratic caucus leader so that we can divorce ourselves from dark money and that corrosive nature of corporate influence in our democratic politics, and instead return us to being a party by, for, and of working people.
So, hi everybody, again, Jenn Kaaoush. So I'm running for Boulder County Treasurer, and it's not always the most exciting race. A lot of times people ask, they don't really know what happens in the Treasurer's office, but it's the only contested race in Boulder County during this primary election, so it's getting a lot more attention than it normally would. And we're talking about things on the campaign trail that really have nothing to do with what the Treasurer's office does, because people want to know who these people are that are actually running for this seat. So the Treasurer's office doesn't make any policy. What it does, I don't know if any of you are Star Wars fans, but I like to think of it as kind of a light and a dark side. The light side that everybody loves is, well, no one really loves paying their property taxes, but the assessor makes those, and the Treasurer's office makes sure that those property taxes get to all the entities that spend them, like our cities and our fire departments and our schools. So that's a good thing, people like that. And the investment side of it, the Treasurer invests in trusts through the state of Colorado primarily, so that if we have an emergency or something happens, we have some backup funds, right? And the dark side is the foreclosure and the tax delinquency. Nobody likes that. That's usually when things have gone wrong and people are not very happy about the situation, but the Treasurer's office actually administers that process. And the reason that I'm running, I have 20 years of background in lending and real estate, but also operational finance and management. And I am concerned about the rising foreclosures and the increase in inflation, and compared to last quarter, foreclosures are almost doubled than they were last year, and I expect to see that increase. So what I would like to do, which is a little unorthodox, and people have a lot of questions about this, it's a paid government job with staff. So my vision is, in this position, that I set up some sort of education and outreach platform, working with lenders and nonprofits and community organizations to try to take some of those stressors off of the nonprofits that are helping people in financial crisis, and actually do it from a position where somebody who's paid and has the ability to use data that's in the office to see what communities go through foreclosures more than others. So I think that's something I would like to create and a trend across the entire state. There's 64 counties in the state, and I would like to do my best to create something that's actually helpful for the community and do more. Anybody who's in a government position right now that's getting paid needs to do way more than just what the job requirement is. These nonprofits are losing money from the state and federal funding, and I would like to stand in to show up to fill that gap as much as possible.
Amazing. So to better see kind of the impacts and the corrosive effects of dark money on our politics, both state and national, could y'all share, as either an elected official or as a candidate, how you've seen or experienced the influence of dark money either in passing policy or on engaging with voters on the campaign trail?
Okay, I'll start with this one. So Erie, we have a lot of oil and gas influence in here, and as elected officials, what we see in Erie is some of the policy and some of the regulation that happens in restricting what we can do or what we cannot do is at a state level, but when the representatives get elected with money that was coming from sources which are external or influencing decisions, we have a representative here who mostly votes for them, and the power of the people is gone. And we see so many issues in Erie which just get punted into the state, saying, take it, and there are no solutions for that. That's my first-hand experience here.
Have you seen it play out also in terms of now as a candidate running?
Yeah, I've seen that in terms of when I meet people, there are a lot of health concerns that I talk to people, and there are concerns around the regulation that they cannot just approve or live with, and needs to be changed. And
I'm going to go here because I've got some stuff to say.
So at the local level, and we just had our first reporting yesterday, and so because this is only contested race, there's two of us, so there's two reports to look at the county level. And what I noticed, and what I like to think of, so I'm also a council member in the town of Superior, so I am an elected official, but it's a very small town, and most of us, when we ran for council, didn't take it was local donors. Nobody's taking PAC money or things like that at that level. And at the county level, I kind of think of it like this is like the training ground for who would take the PAC money. Because this is where you start to see trends at the county level of who has small donors and a broad range of people, and who is funded by a very narrow lane of people that are connected to already electeds up at the state level. And you will be able, if you look, you can see there's a very different side of things between my race and my opponents. But you can see that kind of trending, where the money's coming from. And people that are more grounded in the grassroots, you see the money coming like from up, and then the ones who are in the line of ascension or working, towards in the Democratic Party here for wherever they're going to go next, the money's coming from down into the local politics. So,
can I take a second to tell a little bit of history about how we got here?
Yeah.
So, look, I am coming up on my 8th year at the state capitol. My time at the state capitol is hopefully coming to an end, unless our dear governor goes and draws us into yet another special session. I hope that he does not. Because if he does, we're going to go have a conversation about censuring him or something more related to Tina Peters. But anyway, I digress. Look, when I first started organizing back in 2005, Colorado was a trifecta red state. And I guess that I could have taken my ball and gone home back then and said, well, this is hard, never mind. And instead we didn't, right? We did the work. I was organizing on affordable housing issues, on educational justice issues, on immigrant rights policies. And when I would talk to, back then it was bipartisan to be anti-immigrant. You'd see both Democrats and Republicans chuck immigrants under the bus in order to score cheap political points. I guess I could have taken my ball and gone home then too, right? I remember having conversations with local and state elected officials about, hey, do you recognize the fact that undocumented high school students cannot access higher education because of policies that we have put into place? And they'd say, well, I'd love to help you out. I just don't have immigrants here in my district. Friends, you're about to find out. And so we did that work, and over time did the hard and necessary work to flip those red seats blue. And that took place not only given the organizing work that we were doing on the ground, but there was also an effort on behalf of donors in the state of Colorado to minimize primaries. To say, no, let's just pick which Democrat is going to win ahead of time, put them forward, and then they can go and we can really focus our efforts on fighting back against the Republicans. Well, then we did that work, y'all. We flipped red seats blue, we turned into a purple state, and then we started having conversations about whose issues were actually worthy of being lifted up as democratic priorities. And then Colorado became a blue state. And then we lost the majority. And then we came back again and won the majority. And since 2018, we have not only been a trifecta blue state, but we have been, at one point, the House of Representatives did achieve a supermajority, and then the Senate, the chamber in which I currently serve at the state capitol, was one vote shy, right? And then all of a sudden, this dynamic emerged where maybe there is such a thing. I started to hear this among some of my Democratic colleagues. Maybe there is such a thing as too many Democrats. Wait a second. I thought our job was to win races and govern on behalf of the well-being of everyday Coloradans, right? And so out of that context has this politics around dark money influencing our races and our politics. And you see it playing out in this treasurer's race. You see it playing out in this primary where right here in HD 19, where we know that we have really different versions of what type of Democratic Party do we want to be. You all have, right here in this community, you all will have the determining factor, this primary, to set the stage for what type of Democratic leader do you want taking on not only the MAGA extremists at the state capitol, but also the dark money who right now is playing both sides. And that to me is, I think, the conversation that I really want us to get into. And so thank you for allowing me to kind of give a little bit of that context, because I think that it's important to ground us. We didn't just land here overnight. How many of y'all have gotten your ballots in the mail? How many of you have already turned in your ballots? This is why this conversation matters. Because how many of you have been besieged by a ton of mailers in your races, right? That is what we are talking about right now. Where are those mailers coming from, and what's the money behind it, and how is that then going to influence the work that happens, whether that's at the local level, whether that's at the state level, whether that's at the federal level?
Awesome. So let's get aligned to kind of what we're talking about when we say dark money. Dark money generally refers to political spending on elections and or policy, where the original source of that money isn't disclosed, especially when people or groups seek to obfuscate where that money originally came from through things like PACs, through independent expenditure committees. But when we're thinking about money in politics and transparency, the transparency of that money is also a really big part of that picture. And so with the Trump administration siphoning away or attempting to siphon away billions of tax dollars through phony contracts, through rubber stamp legislation, through lawsuits, there's a lot of distrust in the ability for government to be transparent, to be accountable. And so I'd love to hear from y'all about, if elected, what can you do, or what can we here in this room do to improve transparency on where campaign dollars are coming from and where public funds are going?
I can give a pretty short and easy answer. Because of the level that I'm at, it's all pretty transparent. It's coming from the people in the community, family members, things like that. So I feel like I'd rather give the time over to you guys where you're actually dealing with this one.
Do you want?
Go ahead, I'll be.
Okay, so I'll say I take 0 corporate PAC dollars in my campaign for the U.S. Senate. I also take $0 from APAC, not a dime. And compare that to the incumbent, Senator John Hickenlooper, who has not only his campaign fund, but he has two then different victory funds, corporate PACs, or leadership PACs, I should say, that accept vast amounts of dollars from whether you call them business associations, trade associations, or political action committees, that then he has transferred those dollars into his campaign account, right? And then he says, oh, I take 0 corporate PAC dollars. Okay. So first things first, I think that we ought to put an end to Citizens United and get rid of dark money in our politics, full stop. Second, though, that's not all, right? Because not only are we witnessing that corrosive nature, I have to say, I'm proud that at the state level, every year, and quite frankly, every quarter, I, as a current state elected official, have to disclose any gift that I receive that's over the yearly limit. I think it's like 60-something bucks right now. And so, and I have to disclose that regularly, right? Supreme Court, U.S. Supreme Court doesn't have that same restriction. That level of transparency is not required at the federal level, at the extent to which it is required for us here at the state. I think that that level of transparency and clarity would be welcomed. I would want to see that level of transparency in gifts coming from lobbyists, right? And right now, Senator Hickenlooper has personally profited from corporations that he is charged with overseeing. Let me give you an example of what that looks like in real time, right? He sits on the Transportation Committee, and one would think that you would want to then be very clear in your activities. Well, he's personally invested in and made a couple $100,000 off of Uber stocks, right? And that, to me, demonstrates, do we really think that then he's going to go and hold Uber to account, right? One of my colleagues in the state legislature, Representative Jenny Wilford, was incredibly brave in sharing her personal story of being sexually assaulted while using a rideshare to come back after a night with friends, and like outside of her house. And when it came to that policy, that legislation to hold those rideshare companies to account when they aren't doing the work to keep Coloradans safe, guess who was lobbying like hell in order to prevent that legislation from going into effect? On this one, right? It was the corporations, right? Like, it was the corporations. And if we think that for 1 second that they're not playing that same game in Washington, D.C., y'all, this is how it happens. And so when I talk about that corrosive influence, that is how it plays out. And so my sense is not only, first and foremost, overturn Citizens United, get the dark money out of our politics altogether. Second, we got to ban the insider trading that takes place for members of Congress. And third, I think that we need to end the revolving door that allows legislators to turn into lobbyists overnight. I've had the unique experience of being lobbied by a former member of Congress at the state capitol. Let me tell you, it's hard to say, do you refer to said lobbyist as, hi, insert name, or do you say, hi, Congressman? It's jarring, right? And so I think that we got to end that revolving door as well.
Pointing out is money and influence of money. So when candidates start taking money from these special interests or corporates, And when they have to deliver work, the conscience is about serving the special interests and not serving the people. And it becomes like an obligation, and doing the real work is put in the back burner, and affordability is affected. It comes into every small thing for normal people because the representatives start working for this special interest. So one step back, my thoughts were around publicly financing elections so that candidates don't have to go through all this extra burden of should I take the money or should I work for people. It becomes an easy choice. And of course, and Citizens United, that was my second thing. Thank you.
Absolutely. Yeah.
That was a perfect transition. Citizens United. A little brief backstory, which I'm sure many of y'all know, but in 2010, the Supreme Court ruled on Citizens United v. FEC, establishing that government restrictions and regulations on independent political spending from corporations, PACs, and other entities was unconstitutional on the grounds of free speech. The following year, though, in 2011, Montana challenged Citizens United through their state Supreme Court, arguing that their nearly 100-year-old Corrupt Practices Act, which banned corporate election spending at the state level, was justified and constitutional. That case was then taken to the US Supreme Court, where it was promptly struck down. And there was not even an oral argument, and the Supreme Court ultimately said that the original Citizens United case was unequivocally applicable to every state and local case. So since then, there haven't been serious legal challenges to Citizens United, but Hawaii recently just passed a bill looking to go around Citizens United by giving the state the authority to prohibit allowing corporations and nonprofit organizations that operate within the state from spending money on any political candidates or ballot issue campaigns. So this is a policy that some Colorado legislators have been exploring bringing here. And that is, though, something that is yet, it was not introduced this past session, and it's something that is yet to kind of gain that same level of traction here. So with all of that, what do you see as the path forward for Colorado or the country at large to make meaningful change on transparent campaign finance reforms and contributions?
I would totally support the efforts that are done in Hawaii and Montana so that this comes to Colorado. Once we start removing money from, or the influence of money, the candidates, the real effects come into the society, community, and we see the real work. And I totally support that, and I would go to any extent to support the measures in Colorado.
Thank you. Look, I will just say that I've seen it play out at the Capitol. We all, I think, are living the impacts of the corrosive nature of corporate lobbyists and the billionaires determining what is politically possible in Washington, D.C. And so the question becomes, how bad is it gonna have to get, y'all? I mean, like, how much worse can it get? Should we just, anyway, I could go off on a tangent. I'm just gonna try to not. I think that what's happening in Montana, what's happening in Hawaii are really creative attempts to try and say, all right, y'all, since Congress can't agree on what day of the week it is, I guess we're gonna have to try and figure this out here, right? They call states the laboratories of democracy for a reason. And seeing that those two states are trying to tackle this issue in the ways that they are, they're really creative legal theories. I don't want to get into the weeds about it. But the other thing that we could do is just elect a governing majority of Democrats in the U.S. House and the U.S. Senate who will overturn Citizens United once and for all and put this issue to rest.
Yes.
Then we can all proceed forward and actually talk about the policies that we all know that we need, right? And that to me is my perspective on that question.
I do hope that the legislature in Colorado takes that up and that we start to see it trending across all the states. Sometimes the levers have to get pulled underneath to force upward. But I want to talk about what these conversations look like at the local level. Because as a council member, we have these talks with each other of like, how far can I actually go if I want to make a larger impact or I want to be involved at the state level before these kinds of situations come into play? Can people who have 1 or 2 or 3 jobs ever do this without taking dark money? Can people who don't have the extra time or the bandwidth to campaign like you have to without taking that money ever get to those seats? So at the local level, what happens, just in the treasurer race, just to give you an example, if I were to send a mailer to everybody that I need to, that votes in the Democratic primary, that's about 120,000 mailers. That's $100,000 that I would have to spend at the local level to win attempt to win a seat, right? And so if there's that much money involved at this level, it starts to turn people away. Good people that actually are the kinds of people that you're talking about that we need in these seats, that physically weigh, can I do it with the time? Can I do it with the money that I have? Am I able to, in my working class communities, raise enough money to challenge people that are being funded by these PACs, corporate money? And a lot of times the conversation amongst locals is just like, I will do this locally, but I'm not gonna carry this fight any higher because it just doesn't seem possible. And so the path needs to be cleared in a different way to allow these folks that want to do this good work to get through.
Were you saying something?
Yeah.
No, I just wanted to add one thing to what Jenn said was when we have to allow people from all paths of life to come into politics, money is a big barrier, and because everybody is squeezed into affordability, asking for money at the grassroots level is also very hard. People are squeezed, and once you see these 10 different mailers, you see paid by some fancy names like progressive women or some progressive, it's become like a election buzzword now. Everybody is a progressive and every campaign is a grassroots campaign. And now if you allow these sorts of things to be considered in a different way, the affordability is one big thing, and so if we allow normal people to come in, one of my ideas was to have like a rank choice where you could have any number of candidates and people can rank their candidates, and it doesn't, plus add public financing to it. We'll see people from different paths coming into politics, and the biggest barrier is money actually. Or how do we even pay for these mailers when we see a ton of mailers coming from sources which are, they don't disclose their donors. And when we get a $19 donation from somebody for my campaign, for example, I want them to hold me accountable for that $19 and say, why did you do this? Or why did you not do this? And once we get into these hundreds of thousands of mailers, it's just bad on the trees plus even policy. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, so One Main Street, Colorado. They are a dark money organization focused on supporting quote-unquote pro-business legislation, and they've been a face in Colorado politics for a number of years in one form or another. They've been criticized for their involvement in many legislative and county primary elections, spending into the 5 and 6 figures in these races to support more moderate candidates against more progressive options. One Main Street is also a central backer of the Colorado Opportunity Caucus, a group of state legislators who made headlines recently by taking some $25,000 to attend a retreat in Vail, where they, thus violating the lobbyist gift ban and meeting with lobbyists, including those from Geo Group, Xcel Energy, and the Colorado Realtors Association. These violations are currently being investigated by the Independent Ethics Commission, but have caused a great deal of scrutiny around our campaign finance and transparency requirements for elected officials in Colorado. Both One Main Street and the Opportunity Caucus, as C4 organizations, aren't required to disclose their donors and have not done so despite many requests in the name of transparency. So with no requirement for dark money organizations to make known the source of their money, and yeah, how do we ensure a transparent, accountable campaign finance system here in Colorado and make sure that organizations like these that have taken hold in Colorado and recently in New Mexico, One Main Street opened a new branch out there as well, holding these organizations accountable for contributing to a system of untraceable or difficult to trace dark money.
Can I nerd out on this? Is that okay? Can I? So, look, I'm going to come at this. Are there any CD8 voters in here? Voters for Congressional District 8, right? Okay. So, one, thank you all. Two, this is a question within Team Blue that I think that we need to grapple with, right? Is to whom are we asking ourselves to be accountable to, right? Who are we fighting for? And who are we fighting against? And when you have corporations that for many years were Republican donors, but now the Republican, have you all seen the gubernatorial candidates for Republican? Friends. They'd have a hard time fighting their way out of a wet paper bag, okay? Like, those corporate interests are instead saying, well, wait a second, I still need to maintain my status quo so I can try to rake in as much money as I possibly can. Well, getting's good. And so, hence the birth of the Opportunity Caucus. Now, I say this, I come at this, having been the co-chair of the Latino Caucus, a 501c3 organization that goes and works to connect and communicate alongside and educate Latino residents across the state of Colorado, some of whom enjoy Latino representation at the state capitol, many of whom do not. What we would do is we would fundraise and then go on tours to meet, whether that was across the Roaring Fork, whether that was up in Greeley, whether that was in Aurora, whether that was down in the valley. We'd go and do those tours and connect. And in the aftermath of that Vail meeting, when the Colorado Sun came calling and asked us to disclose our donors, we said, sure, here's your list. Here's all our donors. Because we're a 501c3 organization, we're going to be transparent, and you want to see what where we've spent our dollars? Cool, here you go. Black Caucus did the same. Opportunity Caucus said, no, thank you. And they have not engaged in that disclosure. I asked the question about who's a voter in CD8 because at the CD8 candidate forum or debate earlier this week, right? Shannon Bird, former representative who is now running for CD8, who was one of the co-founders of the Opportunity Caucus, she said, I believe all of the caucuses should disclose their donors. I left before the Opportunity Caucus started fundraising. I agree with Shannon Bird. Opportunity Caucus, One Main Street ought to disclose their donors. Yes. And put this to rest. The issue that you raised, Andrew, around the fact that there has been an independent ethics commission complaint filed, is that that's going to get tied up in litigation, and we're looking at maybe 2 years, maybe if we're lucky a year, before that gets resolved. You all know when the primary is. What day is the primary? What day do you have to turn in your ballots?
June 30th.
At what time?
7 p.m.
That tells you, voters, that you all have the decision while this litigation plays out. You all have the opportunity to be asking whoever it is who are sending these flyers. If you look at some of those flyers real closely, what's fascinating about them is they'll say mailed by, and then they'll have some organizations right next to the address. At least those are the mailers that I'm getting. It makes it look like they're being sent on behalf of certain organizations, certain unions, certain whatever. But then differently, it says paid for by IEC, some independent expenditure committee that won't disclose their donors until this election is come and gone. Y'all, that's how it happens. Watch it closely. And Anil, you mentioned something about, like organizations that purporting themselves to be progressive, but are funded by dark money interests. Read those mailers closely. Watch those ads closely. They are counting on you to just look at the face for about 10 seconds and then say, okay, cool, I guess that person is a progressive. I'll step off my soapbox.
Just to add to that, on a mailer, if you see progressive women, and you'll be like, yeah, I'm a progressive woman. Okay, let's vote for this one.
Mm-hmm.
And they'll be like something related to progressive and which part of life you're in or which phase you're in. They're so deceptive. And I want to go one step back, and when Andrew mentioned who is involved with these companies, for example, Excel or realtors, I want you to pay close attention, because if a candidate is taking money from a corporation like Excel, for example, there is a pretty good chance that your utility rates might go up and your representative is not working for you. If it is a realtor organization that is paying for the candidate, maybe the renter protections could be affected, maybe rents could go up, and the candidates who win have to serve these special interests, and because they took money. For me, all my money is coming from grassroots people, not organizations, but from normal people like you, and I am answerable to you, and I take no corporate PAC money or oil money or pharma money, which makes me sleep very well like a baby at night, so I don't have to be answerable to these corporations. And that is my stand, and my values are not for sale.
Yes.
I want to add, Anil sleeps well at night because he's almost walked 20,000 doors during this campaign, which has put pretty much anybody running anywhere to shame. So if you don't know, that's a huge amount. And I don't know what he's going to do after the campaign's over. We're in this room because we're paying attention, at least somewhat, at some level, right? Think about all the people that you know that are like, there's an election, like they're not tracking that, or they're thinking, maybe it's in November, but they're getting this information, and they are reading things and just believing whatever it is that it says. They're getting marketed to, basically, and that is deeply concerning, because the responsibility is on the recipient to check all of these things, and it's deceptive that way on purpose. And we're paying attention, and we can miss it. And I'm just concerned about all the people that like, they're gonna pay attention, like, oh, I got a ballot, and I'm gonna sit down because this thing is here now, maybe, and they're taking in this information. So it can't be that the everyday people are the ones that are responsible for discerning if this is the truth or not. It's got to come from upstairs, right?
So pivoting a bit to the local level, we talked about Supreme Court, the national landscape Citizens United, but a lot of local races, especially municipalities, and those with major ideological or partisan implications for their community's representation, often see campaign finance violations around things like not disclosing campaign donors, not accurately reporting in-kind contributions like signs and billboards, and delaying the reporting of contributions beyond the official deadlines. And municipalities are often understaffed and underfunded in order to, beyond what they need to handle these kinds of issues, as is the Secretary of State's office. So what are your thoughts on how we can improve the support or the reporting structure so that local dark money and campaign finance issues can be addressed?
What do I think about that?
Yeah. Well, I can say since I'm running a more local race, we started, I filed in February and I just had to report yesterday. So I feel like there should have been some times before now that I was sharing what my campaign was doing, what money I was getting, what I was spending on. And it is an administrative process, so I'm definitely not wishing more of that on myself or anybody else going through this at the local level. But the primary is June 30th, and June 9th was when we had to submit. So, it was really almost the whole campaign, and we didn't have to share, any of this with folks. And I think there's definitely much less of what Anil and Julie are talking about at the level locally. But for example, I think how it can show up at the local level is things like the endorsements and support that are coming from those people in the Opportunity Caucus or the ones who are funded by One Main Street. That's how it can look, where you get piled on with these endorsements and folks that are just, again, like everyday people, they've got jobs to go to, it's like the ballot sitting in front of them and they go like, oh look, this person has all these endorsements, and maybe they have the time to go through and figure out where they're coming from, where those organizations are funded from, but likely not. And so I think that's probably more how it shows up at the local level.
What's the campaign contribution limit in a county race?
1,425, or double that for the
Primary and then
Primary, yes.
general. All right, and in state legislature?
State is 450, 225 per cycle.
225 and 225. What is it for RTD?
None.
No campaign. So if I wanted
No
to,
limit.
If
No,
I-
there's no limit.
And how about
Unlimited.
CU Regent?
450.
450. And I'll say for the U.S. Senate, $3,500 for the primary, $3,500 for the general. So $7,000 combined, right? So 450, 7,000, 2850, unlimited, 450, right? And all of our campaign deadlines of when we file are different, right? They're all over the place. RTD, y'all's are like weird, right?
We follow the state legislative ones. It's the same even though we don't have a primary. It's nice and funny.
Regent?
We follow you guys.
Oh, thank goodness. Y'all's are different. Local city council race, I know in Denver, they're on like weird timelines as well, right? And so that then becomes, we were talking just a minute ago, right, about how complicated it is. You all are, I love you all, but y'all are weirdos because y'all are here on a random Wednesday night. Where like, I love y'all, and I say that as kindly as I can with love. But you're like, let's talk about money and politics, that sounds great. You're a little weird, I love it. But like, think about your neighbor, or think about the voter like 3 doors down who would be like, huh? Politics? right? And if we were trying to have this conversation with them to be like, rah, we end up looking like that gif of the guy who's like, right? Like, it's not a good look. Let me tell you a story. When I was first running for the state senate, back in 2018, my daddy died unexpectedly. Rock climbing. Shattered my whole world. I thought I would not be able to, it makes me want to cry just now thinking about it. Because I was a paralegal, I filed every single one of my campaign finance reports, and 2 weeks after his funeral, we had a debate, and my opponent at the debate made this huge show. The week before, I'd had a campaign finance report due, and in my bleary-eyed grief, I had double entered someone's contribution. So it looked like they had given an illegal campaign contribution. What I really had done was just entered one person twice. And he made a big deal about showing this, look at you, you're so unethical, in front of a room not very dissimilar from a room like this. Voters, right, who were going to make a decision. And he hadn't even taken the grace to like say, I'm sorry about your dad's loss. I was so upset. And I was so devastated because I was like, that's my integrity. He used it not because he was actually concerned about the dark money or the double contribution. He wanted it to be able to use to then put on a social media post to say, look, Julie Gonzales is unethical. Do you know what I mean? And I share that story because that's also what is, I'm fine. That's also like what is playing out right now. Too kind, thank you. That's also when all of these different campaign contribution limits are playing out, different filing deadlines, different work. You have different reporting for us as candidates, and then the dark money expenditures have different deadlines that they have to report. It is confusing, and perhaps intentionally so. So when you're asking, Andrew, of like, what could we do to make it better? Align all of the reports to be due at the same time, one. Have a one-stop shop. So that whether you're running locally, county, state, it is all in one place, as opposed to having to go to like 17 different websites. And update and modernize it. Right now, Tracer looks like it was built in like Windows 95.
What is Tracer?
Oh, thank you. Tracer is the campaign finance reporting system managed by the Secretary of State in the state of Colorado. Do you report under Tracer, or do you? Okay. And so like put them all under one thing so that you can track them all and you can see, is, I don't know, insert corporation trying to build a stronghold in one community? Are they trying to, you can then do that research and investigate and have that level of transparency. I guess I just share that based on my own experience of seeing how my opponent tried to use what was honestly an innocuous error against me in order to try to like then say, look, she's unethical, don't vote for her. It didn't work, but here we are.
I agree with everything Senator Julie said, but I want to add 3 things. One was, this is my 3rd election. I ran for a school board, I ran for city council, and this is a state race. And every reporting was different, every deadline was different, all the contributions are different, and there is no, like it could use automatic download from a bank and put systems which are double checking and cross-checking and make sure these kind of errors are eliminated, and also have a detailed donor information, which is sometimes missing in ways where you can put in whatever you want and there is no way to validate it, which lacks the credibility that who is donating, and it's not across corporations or businesses or individuals. And if we have that transparency little more clear, it gives people more chance and more options to research quickly. And it's so complicated, like Julie said, Tracer is in Windows 95.
It's so bad.
Thank you.
All right, so I think we are at time, but for the just last quick question, if y'all could give a final kind of pitch about how we can kind of go about untangling this web of dark money to see who and what we're voting for in a one sentence as best as possible.
I can start. So ballots are out and we are looking and researching every candidate, and I want all of you to go home and see what is the candidate's strengths and who is supporting them. Like you can see the candidate's endorsements and you can see who they're all aligned with, and that will give you a perspective of the values of the candidates, and that will give you a bigger picture of who you're electing and if they will stand up for you or not. Thank you.
Yeah.
I want you to have the last word. Can
I just want to add to what Anil said. So if you're not aware of Tracer, you can Google like Colorado TRACER, and when it comes up, there's actually a menu where you can select the candidate or candidate committee, and you can see their contributions, you can see who's donated to them, you can see what they've spent, where they're spending money. So if you're passionate about somebody, you should definitely get used to using this very antiquated and clunky system, but it does give you the reports. It actually does show you, it's helpful to see who's funding folks, even at the local level. Local municipalities are on there, but at the county level, you'll see that. Sorry, my one sentence, that was not it. Let's get some publicly funded elections going on here. I mean, that's the answer.
I'll be really clear. I'm not going to out fundraise John Hickenlooper. The dude's got $4 million in the bank and is a multimillionaire. I'm not. And so this entire campaign is based on the idea that organized people can win against organized money. And so you all have the ballots in your mailboxes or maybe on your kitchen counters. Look closely. Look at all that pile of mailers and lit that you are probably seeing on your doors, because this is a deeply contested area. Look at who, there's also a financial, right? They all have to have a disclosure of paid for by, right? And you will see, paid for by Julie for Colorado. You can see that on my mailers in the lit here, right? Take a look at those. And thank you for being weirdos with us and for taking the time to talk about the ways that money is playing out in our politics in this moment. It means the world.
Thank you.
All right, thank you everyone. If everyone can just come to the front real quick for a picture, we just really want to highlight all the people that really care about money and politics and just highlight our three incredible candidates. Give a round of applause to our three candidates. Running a people-powered campaign without selling out to corporate interests is really hard. It's really hard to go to all these events, especially Senator Gonzales, who goes across the state. So thank you again, and let's just get a quick picture, and thank you all for coming.